It's easy to get lost in New Year's traditions. Eating lentils, jumping waves, wearing white clothes. Small gestures loaded with hope. But of course, they are just superstitions. The color of your clothes will never bring prosperity to your life. Nor will the dish you choose to eat. It won't change anything. But I don't judge. Far from it. I've done it myself many times. Every year-end, I made promises and wishes, followed the superstitions, and prayed a lot. But nothing too grand ever came to me. Sure, my life wasn't falling apart, it never was. But nothing remarkable happened to justify all those promises and superstitions. But of course, everyone already knows this. I'm just rambling. Nobody sits on the couch all day doing nothing because they asked for a lot of money in New Year's wishes. And anyone who does something like that, well, isn't exactly in their right mind. But what if I told you it's actually possible? Hard to believe, I know. But there is in fact a way to make your wishes come true through a New Year's promise. Well, it's not exactly a promise. I mean, yes and no, it's a ritual, actually. But, in a way, rituals are like promises. You make a request, and if you do your part, you'll get your reward. Nothing too complicated, right? I found out about this ritual last year on a random cooking forum on a certain social network. Yep, I was watching a video about pasta tips and found a ritual in a random comment. Strange, to say the least. I know, don't even ask. Anyway, I read the comment, which explained everything about the ritual. Or at least everything I'd need to perform it, and its possible consequences. Yes, of course, there are consequences. But before I discourage you, I'll say it's nothing too concerning, so long as you follow through. Anyway, here's the ritual. The comment was from a user with no profile picture named Prosperous, and it said the following. Have the best year of your life with a simple New Year's ritual. Hi, I know this isn't the topic of the video, and I apologize for that, but I'm sure what I'm about to say will interest you. I know you're tired of making New Year's wishes that never come true. I can just sense it. But don't worry, I bring the solution to your problem. You'll only need simple items you can find at home or, if necessary, at the store. This ritual has been passed down for centuries, but only those truly committed can reap its benefits. I hope everything works out for you, and that your next year is the most wonderful of your life. But remember, once you start the ritual, it cannot be stopped, and once completed, it cannot be undone. So think carefully, as the consequences are irreversible. But don't worry about that. After all, I've never seen anyone mess up this simple ritual. Below the message were the instructions for the ritual. Step 1. On December 30th, spend the entire day cleaning your house with a completely white cloth made of pure linen. The cloth must be moistened with holy water and salt. Do not use any cleaning products. Don't do anything else. Just clean your house. You're only allowed to stop to drink water and use the bathroom, and only for as long as strictly necessary. You'll know if you take too long, even if you feel exhausted, even if you've already cleaned the same room several times, even if you hear voices or see shadows. Don't stop. For the next 24 hours, all you'll do is clean your house. He likes to see people who are tidy and committed. Needless to say, you must be alone in the house for the entire ritual, right? You'll be free to sleep at midnight on the 30th. If everything goes well, you'll dream of him. You won't be able to see his face or physical form, but you'll hear his voice. Just don't feel afraid. He will ask what your wish is. Be honest, but not greedy. Don't worry. You'll know when you're asking for too much. He'll let out a frightening growl. He doesn't like greedy people. If everything goes well, you'll make your request, and he'll say, "All right, just stick to the agreement, and everything will go well." However, there's also the possibility of the ritual failing at this first step. This can happen in two situations. One, when you go to sleep on the 30th, if you cheated, you won't dream at all. He just doesn't like cheaters. Don't worry, you'll have another chance next year. Two, if you ask for too much during your dream. After his growl, you'll wake up abruptly. If this happens, I'm sorry, but you need to learn not to be greedy. Just improve as a person and try again next year. Step 2. Spend December 31 however you like. You can rest all day if you want. It doesn't matter. But before 11 p.m. you must have prepared a table in your house with the following items. 2 identical white candles. 2 identical white plates. 2 identical pieces of fruit. 2 glasses of water, filled. 2 identical mirrors. Arrange the items as follows. Remove all non-ritual related items from the table. Leave only 2 chairs on opposite sides. If your table is large, remove all other chairs. Leave only the 2 as indicated. At the 2 available spots on the table, place 1 of each item. A plate with the fruit inside, the glass of water to the right of the plate, the candle to the left, and the mirror in front of the platte. Do this for both sides of the table. Under no circumstances should there be more than 2 chairs at the table. You don't want anyone else but him sitting with you. Needless to say, you should offer high-quality fruit and clean water to your guest, right? Step 3. At 11 p.m., light the 2 candles, take your seat, and hold the mirror in front of you. Say aloud the following words. I authorize you to enter my house within the limits of the agreement. Say it 6 times while looking at the candle on the opposite side of the table. If it works, the candle will extinguish, leaving only yours lit. This means your guest has accepted the invitation and is now sitting across from you. When this happens, immediately take your eyes off the candle and look only at your reflection in the mirror. From this moment on, you are not allowed to look at anything other than your own reflection. Do not avert your gaze under any circumstances. It's tempting, I know. That's why I recommend using a large mirror. But even a large mirror won't prevent you from giving in to temptation, so don't look. Ever. If you say the words above and the candle remains lit, the ritual has failed. Your guest did not accept your invitation. Perhaps he didn't like the quality of the fruit on the table, or the purity of the water. I know you tried your best, but he's very demanding. And if you're crazy enough to offer a rotten fruit or absurdly dirty water, like from a toilet, with the intent to offend him, congratulations, you've succeeded. Now, commit suicide. It's your best option from this point on. But I know that's not your case. I'm sure you'll choose the best fruit and water for your guest. If he doesn't accept it simply because he didn't like it, don't worry. Just try again next year. Step 4. If your guest accepted the invitation to sit at the table, then, as mentioned earlier, you must focus only on your reflection. You'll notice that your reflection has changed. It's still you, but different. What's happening is that your guest has assumed your place in the mirror. But don't worry, he'll leave soon. What you need to do now is talk to your guest. Don't hide anything from him. Pretend he's a psychologist. Don't be afraid, he's not there to harm you. He wants to understand you better. You might think the conversation you had with him in your dream was enough, but it wasn't. That conversation was just for him to decide whether you were worthy or not. This conversation is deeper and more intimate. You'll talk about your regrets, your plans for the future. Be sincere in everything you say. Don't lie to him under any circumstances. Don't worry, he won't judge you. He just wants to understand. The conversation will last about an hour, and he will leave shortly before midnight. Step 5. After the conversation with your guest, you will bid farewell. Be polite and say, I thank you for your noble visit that enriches my spirit, and I take my leave of your magnificence. Close your eyes, and do not open them again till midnight. I believe the fireworks will serve as a good clock for you. If everything went well, you can celebrate because your year will be the best you've ever had. Only good things will happen. But remember, now you must fulfill your part of the agreement. It's quite simple, you just need to offer something of similar value on the next December 31st. It's not material. Your gratitude to him is enough. And by gratitude, I mean your soul. He won't take it from you. He will only borrow it for a while and return it when someone else makes the pact. It's a fair price in the end. I read all of this and, of course, found it very bizarre. Never in my life would I perform such a ritual, especially one that involves offering my soul. But what if it's true? What if I really could have the best life ever just by doing this ritual? Giving up my soul for a year doesn't seem that bad. In fact, it sounds amazing. I needed to do this. I needed to have a good year in my life. After so many bad years, I deserved it, right? Even if it was a deal with a dark entity, actually. It didn't seem like a dark entity. Perhaps it was an angel, or maybe the Creator himself. And even if it wasn't him, I was sure he wouldn't be upset if I made this deal. After all, I wouldn't be doing anything harmful to anyone. Just lending my soul. I would still be myself in the end. So, I decided to do it. I prepared everything as described. I bought the most beautiful candles and plates I could find. I bought 2 massive, juicy peaches, the best ones in the market. I also purchased the purest and most expensive water. Everything was ready. The next step was to clean the house. I rested well on the 29th to have enough energy to clean the entire house on the 30th. I started at midnight, and as instructed, I used a linen cloth with holy water and salt. Surprisingly, it was easier than I imagined, though I had the strange sensation of being watched. Perhaps it was exhaustion, but for a moment, I thought I saw something moving in the reflection. A shadow, dark and dense. I blinked, and everything was normal. I convinced myself it was just my imagination. At midnight on the 30th, I stopped and went to bed. And it really happened. I dreamed of him. It was a pleasant, though unsettling, conversation. His presence was, at the very least, oppressive. Everything went well in the dream. As I woke up calmly after the conversation with the entity, I woke up early on the 31st. The ritual didn't specify a time to prepare the table, only that it had to be ready by 11 p.m. So, I set everything up in the morning and spent the rest of the day with the sensation of being watched. I had a good day. Anxious, but fine. Then the time came. I set an alarm for 11 p.m. to make sure I didn't miss a second. I lit the candles, said the words, and looked at the candle on the opposite side of the table. I waited a few seconds that felt like hours. I thought my guest had lost interest in me. But then it happened. The candle went out, almost as if all the light in the room had vanished. A cold wind passed through me, and I realized he was there. I remembered the instructions and immediately looked away from the candle, focusing only on the mirror. As described, my reflection was different. I could barely see my face, but I could see the glowing red eyes and the piercing stare. That's when he began to speak. I won't detail what we talked about because it was a very long conversation. That hour felt like an eternity. We talked about everything. My life, my family, my friends, what I would do with an improved life. It was indeed a long but productive conversation. We concluded, and I performed the farewell ritual. Closing my eyes, I waited what felt like an eternity. I felt cold, very cold. I heard voices and felt shivers as if something icy was touching me. But I stayed strong and didn't open my eyes. Then the fireworks began, and a wave of relief washed over me. I felt the presence leave, and I knew it was safe to open my eyes. When I looked at the opposite side of the table, I was surprised by what I saw. The peach was completely eaten, leaving only the piddle. The water was entirely consumed, and the mirror was broken. The same had happened on my side of the table. I didn't understand any of it, but it wasn't my place to question. Then the year began for me. I felt exhausted and went to sleep. That night I had the best dream of my life. Just wonderful things. I woke up feeling incredibly refreshed. I even received a call from work. I had been promoted and given a significant salary increase. Not only that, but my investments skyrocketed. And that was just the beginning. As the days went by, I noticed many changes in my life. Women looked at me more often, flashing seductive smiles as if I were some kind of movie star, which I've never been. My nights were always peaceful. I didn't have a single nightmare the entire year, only amazing dreams. This can't be a coincidence. It has to be because of the ritual. This isn't normal, just one good thing after another. Whether it was a beautiful woman asking for my number or a stranger giving me their groceries because they couldn't carry everything to their car, random, often illogical events, there wasn't a single sad moment that year. 12 months passed, and I was the happiest man on earth during that time. But of course, the time came for me to fulfill my part of the agreement. It was time to pay the price, with my soul. Surprisingly, I felt calm. In fact, I spent the entire year without any concern about this inevitable day. I was about to lose my soul, and yet I felt good about it. Probably another effect of the ritual. But all that courage vanished at midnight on December 31st, the turn of the year. The year had ended, and so had the effect of the contract. I felt all the fear and despair my body could hold, as if it had been accumulating to hit me all at once. I was about to lose my soul. I didn't know what would happen to me. Would I survive? That's when he appeared, my guest from the previous year. Of course, I couldn't see his face again, as he came disguised as me, using the same appearance he had assumed to speak to me through the mirror the year before. The same cold, terrifying appearance. "I've come to collect your part of the deal," he said in a cold and imposing voice. I felt fear and panic, and before I could run, scream, or plead for mercy, he simply extended his hand over my forehead and vanished into a smoke as cold as before. I didn't feel anything different. Apart from the fear I was already feeling, just a bit of cold. Days passed, and he didn't take away any of the things I'd been given. My possessions remained intact. My job stayed the same. Everything seemed normal, or at least, everything material. However, the way people looked at me completely changed. It was as if they'd woken up from a trance. Women stopped smiling randomly at me. My boss no longer gave me periodic compliments, and things went back to how they were before, or worse. The cold stares I received were filled with pure pity. The men who once looked at me with respect and admiration now gave me looks of sheer sympathy, as if I were the most pitiful person in the world. Meanwhile, the women who had smiled seductively now looked at me not just with pity, but with fear, as though, in their eyes, I was not only a wretch, but also a criminal. My appearance in the mirror had also changed. Before, I looked strong and healthy. Now, I looked as though I had a terminal illness. And that's not even mentioning the constant fear and cold that had haunted me since the day he came and took my soul. The nightmares I've had every night feel increasingly real. Whoever or whatever puts them in my head seems determined to make each one worse than the last. Shadows and figures follow me wherever I go, circling like vultures. I hear voices coming from every direction. Cold hands grab me at random times throughout the day. It's as if they think I'm one of them, but walking on the other side. But of course, it would only be temporary. The deal was clear. He would keep my soul for just 1 year, until someone else signed the contract. The problem is, no one signed the contract the following year. He didn't return to give my soul back. So, I assume I'll be like this for another year. It's not so bad, you know. It just takes some time to adjust to all the inconveniences. Things like everyone distancing themselves from you. Horrifying nightmares every single night. Handprints appearing on your body. Voices whispering what they'll do to you in hell. Aside from these minor annoyances, it's truly a fantastic deal. I'm sure you'd handle it just fine for a year. Though, admittedly, I'm now heading into my 3rd year of this, but I promise you, it's not so bad. I promise you'll be fine. That's why I've left all the instructions for the ritual here, so you can experience for yourself just how wonderful the New Year's ritual is, how incredible the rewards are, and how amazing your next year will be after performing it. So, do it. Do the ritual. You won't regret it. Do the ritual, please. Save my life. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.